Hello and welcome to yet another video on to and fro motion of A and B between X and Y. So A starts from X, B starts from Y and they move towards each other, and we have to analyze the cases when they meet or they interact at X or Y. So in this video, we are not concerned about them meeting in between. We are only concerned about the meeting that happens at these endpoints X and Y. So to analyze this situation, we have four cases that we will deal with one by one. Case 1 is when ratio of speeds of A and B is even upon odd. For example, we are taking the ratio as 4 upon 3. Speed of A upon speed of B is 4 upon 3. Now they started simultaneously, they started at the same time, and at any given time they both would have travelled for the same duration. So time for both is constant, and as time is constant, distance will be directly proportional to speed. So ratio of distance covered by A and distance covered by B, this ratio at any given time will be same as 4 by 3. So what does this mean? When A covers 4 parts, B will cover 3 parts. When A covers 4 rounds, B will cover 3 rounds. Now this path that they actually take is linear, but their motion is to and fro, which I have represented here in this diagram. Motion of A is represented in red, whereas motion of B is represented in blue. A starts from X and covers 4 rounds, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and A reaches at X again. In the same time, B starts from Y and covers 3 rounds, 1, 2 and 3, and B ends up reaching at X only. So they both are now at X and they will be meeting at X. Now A will start his 5th round from X, and after even number of rounds, A will always take even number of rounds. So after even number of rounds, A will end up reaching at X again. Whereas B ended up at X, so B will start at X. B took 3 rounds, so this one is 4th round for B. So B will start his 4th round from X, and after odd number of rounds, B will end up reaching at Y. So this time they will not meet. A ended up at X, whereas B ended up at Y. So there will be no meeting happening at Y. In the next round, A will again start from X, whereas B will again start from Y. This scenario would be same as this first scenario. Okay. So they will never meet at Y because A will always end up at X only. A will never end up at Y, and B in every 3 rounds will end up at X and Y alternately. Of course, they will be meeting in between, but when ratio of speeds of A and B is even upon odd, they never meet at Y. Now tell how many times do they meet in total. Okay, in total means we have to include the meetings that happen in between. Well, in the same time, A makes more rounds than B. Okay, A is making 4 rounds, whereas B is making only 3 rounds. And in every round that A takes, A will interact with B. A will either meet B from the front or A will overtake B from behind. Let's mark all the meeting points. I have divided this whole path into 7 equal parts. Why 7 parts? 4 plus 3 is 7. So I have divided the path into 7 equal parts. In the time when A covers 4 parts, B will be covering 3 parts. So A covering 4 parts will reach here. B covering 3 parts will also reach here. So first meeting is going to happen here. Okay, this is the path of A. A will reach here, and B covering 3 parts would have reached here. So this line represents the first point of meeting. This is the point where they meet for the first time. Similarly, these are all the meeting points. Now just focus on A's route. Okay, just focus on A's motion shown in red. As A is making more rounds, as the speed of A is more, A is faster. So we are just going to focus on A. As I said, in every round that A takes, A will be meeting B, either from behind or from front. A will be meeting B in every round that A takes. But here in the fourth round, this is first, this is second, then third, and then fourth round. In this fourth round, A is meeting B at this end point X. Then in this fifth round, there is no meeting happening between A and B. Speed of A is more, so A will go ahead and will not meet B in the fifth round. So in this fourth and fifth round combined, there is only one meeting happening between A and B at this point X. So when A makes 8 rounds, this should mean 8 meetings between A and B. But as they are meeting at this end point once, there is one less meeting, as there will be 2 rounds with one common end point meeting. So we will have to subtract one meeting from this, and in total there will be 7 meetings. Okay, in total they meet 7 times. Similarly, in the case when SA upon SB is odd upon even, okay, in this case they will never meet at X, as B will be covering even number of rounds in the same time when A covers odd number of rounds. B is starting from Y after even number of rounds, B can never end up at X, whereas A taking odd number of rounds will either end up at X or will end up at Y. So meeting will always happen at Y. That's the common point for both. They will never meet at X. Next case, when the ratio is odd upon odd. Okay, this third case when the ratio is odd upon odd. For example, SA upon SB is 5 upon 3. A start from X, and in 5 rounds, in odd number of rounds, A will reach Y. Okay, whereas B starting from Y, in 3 rounds will reach X. So after 5 rounds of A and 3 rounds of B, they are not going to meet because they will end up at opposite ends. Now A has reached Y, so A will start from Y, and after odd number of rounds, A will end up reaching X, whereas B starting from X will end up reaching Y after odd number of rounds. So once again, the meeting will not happen as they both end up reaching opposite ends. They will of course meet in between. They will of course meet somewhere in between. Okay, they will meet here. Okay, this would be one point of meeting, then this would be one point of meeting. They will meet in between, but they will never meet at the end points. So in this third case, this was first case, this was second case, and this is third case. In this third case, when ratio of speeds is odd upon odd, they will never meet at end points. They will never meet at X or Y. Then comes the fourth case when the ratio of speeds SA upon SB is even upon even. Well, this case could always be reduced to one of these 3 cases. Okay, we can repeatedly divide the numerator and denominator by 2 and we can reach one of these 3 cases. So we can skip this last case. Okay. Moving on to the case when both start simultaneously from the same point in the same direction. A and B both will start from X and they will move towards Y, and the motion will be to and fro. After reaching Y, they will return towards X. I have shown all the 3 cases. Just pause and go through them one by one. Even upon even, the fourth case, even upon even, could be reduced to one of them. So I have not written that. Let's talk about this first case. Even upon odd. A covering even number of rounds will always end up at the starting point. A starting from X will always end up at X. Okay, whereas B covering odd number of rounds will end up at the opposite end. So the meeting will never happen at Y. They will never meet at Y. Okay. In odd upon even case, in this second case, B starting from X will always end up at X only. After even number of rounds, B will end up at X only. Whereas A covering odd number of rounds will end up at the opposite end. So the meeting will never happen at Y. Okay, B will never end up at Y. They will never meet at Y. They will always meet at X only. Okay. So they never meet at Y in this second case. In this odd upon odd case, A will end up at the opposite end, whereas B will also end up at the opposite end after covering odd number of rounds. So the meeting could happen at Y, whereas when they start from Y, they will end up at X. So the meeting can happen at X as well. So they can meet at X as well as Y. Now let's solve a question. Speeds of A and B are given. They move to and fro between X and Y. And we are asked how many times do they meet in 1 hour. The distance between X and Y is given as 100 meters. How many times do they meet in 1 hour? So here SA upon SB is 20 upon 80, that is 1 upon 4. This is odd upon even. Okay, and we have seen that in odd upon even case, B will be taking even number of rounds, and starting from Y, B will always end up at Y only. So the meeting will never happen at X. Now as the speed of B is more, B will be faster. B will be covering more rounds in the same time as A, and every round that B makes, B will be coming across A. Okay, B will be meeting A in every round that B makes. So we'll be simply counting number of rounds made by B. So B in 1 minute covers 80 meters, right? In 1 minute, B covers 80 meters. In 60 minutes, that's asked in the question. In 60 minutes or in 1 hour, B will be covering 80 into 60, that is 4800 meters. And 4800 meters means 48 rounds of 100 meters each. Okay, so in total there should be 48 meetings, right? There should be 48 meetings, but we know that every time that they meet at Y, that would be the only meeting in those 2 rounds, a round before and a round after. From this 48, we will have to subtract the number of times they meet at Y. So A reaches Y in 5 minutes. 20 into 5 is 100. So A reaches Y in 5 minutes. In the same 5 minutes, B will cover 5 into 80. 5 into 80 is 400. So in the same 5 minutes, when A covers 5 into 20, 100, when A covers 1 round, B will be covering 4 rounds in those same 5 minutes. Okay. So after 1 round of A will reach Y, and after 4 rounds, B will be reaching Y. 1, 2, 3 and 4. B will end up reaching Y. So first meeting will happen at the end of 5 minutes. Okay. Then in 10 minutes, in next 5 minutes, A will start from Y and will reach X again. Okay. Whereas B starting from Y will cover 4 rounds and again end up at Y only. So in 10th minute, there will be no meeting happening. They will meet at 5 minutes, but they will not meet at 10th minute. Then in 15th minute, in the end of 15th minute, A starting from X again would have reached Y, and B starting from Y would have covered 4 rounds and reached Y. So there will be a meeting happening at 15th minute. Next meeting would happen after 10 minutes, that is at 25 minute, then at 35 minute, then at 45 minute and at 55 minute. Okay, so these are the times when they meet at Y. Okay, So we will have to subtract these number of meetings from 48. Okay, right? These are the 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. These are the 6 times when they have only one common meeting for 2 rounds. So we have counted 48 meetings for 48 rounds minus 6 common meetings for 2 rounds. So in total there would be 42 meetings happening between A and B. Now in place of 1 hour, if the question said 55 minutes, how many times do they meet in 55 minutes? Now the things are going to be different. In 55 minutes, B will be covering 55 into 80, that is 4400 meters. Okay, B is faster, so we will be focusing on B. B will be covering 4400 meters. That simply means 44 rounds, which will mean 44 meetings. But we will have to subtract the number of meetings happening at this common point Y, at this end point Y. So these are the meetings that we need to skip. Okay, these are the meetings that we need to skip. So first meeting happening at 5 minutes, we will skip this, we will skip this, this and this. But this last meeting happening at 55 minutes, we will not be skipping this meeting. Why? If they had continued their motion even after 55 minutes, then this meeting at 55th minute would have been common to the round before and the round after. Okay, this would have been a common meeting for 2 rounds. So we will have subtracted this meeting if they had continued their motion after 55 minutes. But as this is the last meeting, okay, they do not continue their motion afterwards. This is the last meeting happening. We will have to count this meeting. We will have to count this 55th meeting. So we will be subtracting only 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 meetings. We will be subtracting only these 5 meetings. So 44 minus 5 is 39 meetings in total. Okay, so they will meet for 39 times when total time is 55 minutes. This was an interesting concept of total number of meetings and meetings happening at the end points. Thank you.